Excellent. Welcome to the TED Summit podcast. We've got TED Summit Innovators because last week, Robert Viz, who's on with us, did an amazing post on the shift in his business, and Paul did a great review. So we have both Robert and we have Paul here. Bird is doing something revolutionary, and he's been sharing with us snippets, but it's getting real and amazing gross margins because he owns it all. It's as simple as that. No resells like all the CPaaS players. He's taking it to the next level.
Without announcing too much about it, just because like we're slowly kind of like dripping some of the stuff that we're doing. But a few years ago, I had this idea. I basically started seeing patterns between software programs, and I bootstrapped Bird for the first 6.5, 7 years, and then raised a bunch of capital. Um, but what was interesting is as the company scaled, and the more software tools that I was using, things got more complex, not
Yeah,
easier.
yeah,
And there was always like this like promise, oh, but you can connect it to this. And there's like this whole integration like world of like, yeah, but you connect this to this and this and this and this. But it's kind of like the game of telephones, where the more things you connect, like at some point you just like you lose all this sort of stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And if you think about it first principles, then essentially like information is basically a database.
Hmm.
And then CRUDs are basically read and write actions on top of that
Yeah,
database. And then it's more complex. There's like relational and
yeah,
like, access rights and like so it's a little bit more complex. And then there's basically applications, UIs on top of that that basically make things work.
yeah,
So we placed a bet 3.5 years ago to basically go build this.
yeah,
If you think about classical founder story, you have a problem, you experience yourself, you're frustrated by it, so you go fix it.
yeah,
Um, and I was just more passionate about this side of the world. And I think I've mentioned on your podcast before that, like, my view on CPaaS and USaaS, it became like less of like a big business. I started like disbelieving that this was actually going to be the future.
yeah,
So I made the bet and I started building. And then I think where we got really lucky is obviously AI came. And
yeah.
then that just massively accelerated our vision because we were able to build it a lot faster. And it sort of like all came together. In essence, Bird Box is basically like the center of it is a customer data platform.
Okay.
Essentially a database.
Yeah.
And on top of that database, we build different types of applications. And the magic is they all work seamlessly together.
Hmm.
So if you provision an account on Bird, then that provisioning happens across all of our different apps. We split them into grow, manage, and automate. So grow is like marketing and customer service and managing your sales team. Manage is things like expenses and payments and HR, IT, role-based access control. And we're launching a few more things in that segment. And then automate is logically automating across. So that's like creating different workflows. You can connect anytime. I mean, we have them out of the box, any LLM, whether it's Claude or OpenAI or Google Vertex or
Yeah.
Grok. Obviously, Grok's obviously the most fun one. And then and you can use that to build this. And I think the other thing is because we are originally an infrastructure company, we looked at AI also as like an infrastructure tool. So for our marketing product, for example, if you want to create an HTML template, then obviously you can go to Claude or OpenAI and then do that and copy paste it. We made a bunch of that stuff
Cool.
very native. And then it also does things like optimizing your campaigns, for example.
Hmm.
So if a user always opens the email at 9:30 a.m., it's probably wise sending it at 8:15 right before they
Yeah.
open it because it comes on top of their inbox. And another user might do that at 1:30 p.m. These things are very logical,
Yeah.
but the advantage that we had is because we built it from scratch that we were able um, 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 to um, um, to implement this very easily. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell what we're building at Bird. And we went into beta, and so Bird's now running completely on Bird,
Oh,
which is
wow.
which is
Cool.
super cool. So we run our own marketing on ourselves, run our own inbox on ourselves, we run our own sales team on ourselves, run our own expenses, our own payments, our own
Yeah.
HR. We run our own Jira, so we don't have Jira anymore, which is like the magic of everything. We don't have
Yeah.
Jira, we don't have Confluence, we don't. So Bird runs on Bird. So we know it works. So we've
Yeah.
proven that it works now because we run on it. And then in February we're launching for customers. So in
Ah,
February we're
gotcha.
we're making we're making a big push. But last year February, if you might remember, is we launched V1 of the platform. So
Yes.
we launched marketing and customer service, and that's just gone wild. I mean, I started Bird 14 years ago. I made this public. We reached 70 million in ARR in our first year. So to come from scratch to 70 million ARR probably makes us one of the fastest growing AI customers. And the most amazing part is most of these are even multi-year deals. So it's not even like, in this AI whitewashing space, you see a lot of like deals that are like POCs or things.
Yeah.
It's actually real revenue. Customers really love our product. So it's been super cool to see the reactions from people.
So the collective noun you use for all these sort of services, is it Bird Box or?
Yeah, we call
In a
it
box.
business in a box.
Okay.
Which is because it's kind of like your entire business fits
Yeah.
inside of a box, and that's how you manage it. So we started with Bird CRM, Bird Box,
Yeah.
business in a box. It's
Okay.
at the end, it's just Bird.
Okay.
But we
Is
have a
Wall
lot.
Street going to call you a CRM? I mean,
No,
I've been looking at this company called Braze, right? And I'm looking
Yeah.
at their numbers, like 500 million a year in revenue, 4.3 billion. A friend of mine has got it invested in that thing. A lot of insider trading junk. They're trading it like 10 times. You blow them away on margin. They're a competitor of yours, right?
I know
Right.
Braves. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I think we're after a little bit of a different opportunity. I mean, the space that we're now going after, in essence, we're competing with every business. I mean, we have our own
Everybody.
version of DocuSign. We have our own version of so, I won't have a lot of friends left in SaaS just because them at one level are all competing with each other.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I also think these spaces are extremely big and extremely large.
Huge.
And so, yes, maybe we're competing with them on, but we're also close friends of each other and we do business together. So like, I don't look at this as much as like trying to compete with everybody. At the end of the day,
But you're taking
We
customers
love-
from people. Are you taking I mean, obviously you're going to clean up on the CPaaS players, right? Because it's like since you got to go to 16 different
Yeah.
places and connect everywhere. I'm just curious, like, where do you see? Because
We'd be
right
more
now you're
after-
at 200 million in revenue, right? Where do you see the most
We'd be-
disruption coming?
we'd be more after companies like Salesforce. So some of our flagship customers that I mentioned also in the note came from Salesforce. So that's been we're very, and I mean, as much as Bird is like SMB friendly, like we have a lot of small businesses that use us and a lot of mid-market businesses that use us. The core of Bird. So it's actually a funny story. If you think about it, I built the business for like let's say 10, 11 years before I started building this. And the thing is, if you found a business, you bootstrap it or you raise capital, like your job is just to scale it as fast as you can. And you often start with like small or medium customers, and over time, all these big enterprises come. And then these big enterprises always have like endless questions that you can't answer. And they have like all these RFPs and they're like, oh, can you do this? And I want to store my data in this location, and I want to do this, and I want that access control. And with this. So when I started building this platform, there's this like website called enterpriseready.com. I just copy pasted everything on Enterprise Ready, and I said, this is going to be the core. So the core is basically CDP customer data database, and enterpriseready.com was kind of the core of everything. So we have a lot of enterprise features. So we can do things like I can host data locally in Germany or France or Europe or US. We can do a lot of things like that. So enterprises really love the business that we have. So ultimately, I think I'm more after some of the really big incumbents than necessarily the more medium-sized. But all customers are welcome. So I take no judgment of the customer side. You're welcome at any. You're $500 a month. You're welcome. You're 500,000 a month. You're as welcome.
Cool.
I want to do a segue there, but I want Paul to jump in and talk about his piece and some questions he might have for you, because he's built a great platform. We've had him on the show and doing a lot of good to help a lot of good people, which a lot of things that you do with your foundation, People for People, which I follow. And I think what Paul's doing is really important and really big. And I'm sure there'll be some business for you guys to do at some point, because he's really just helping people and helping the least fortunate people, which is something that's near to your heart. So Paul, why don't you jump in? Paul,
Yeah, actually, the thing that spurred me to actually jump into this, and I did jump into it, was your letter. I was just blown away by the letter, and I went, "Oh Jesus, hold on a second, something big is happening here." And when something grabs your attention, you just want to jump into it. So, like, I'm not an analyst, I'm not an industry analyst. It was my natural kind of curiosity to kind of line things up. And the the thing that struck me was this is set up to be a completely AI first platform. Like that's what you're going for here. And there's a couple of things that were just kind of obvious to me, right? And the things that were obvious to me were the things that you weren't saying. So, for instance, you're not verticalizing, right? So the first thing you do is you'd say, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there for like we verticalize, right? We have utilities, we have big retailers, we focus on verticals, right? They have specific needs, they have specific requirements, specific workflows, yada yada. Okay, but you weren't doing that. Like you obviously had a super goal above that, and I think it's something like you want to be a business platform, and a digital business platform, I think, is the next market kind of space to go after. And I think what you were saying at the beginning here is the same kind of thing. And I'll give you an example. So there's a couple of companies in Ireland, and what they do is they find a business like gyms or hairdressing salons, right? And they say, everything you need for this business, we're going to give you, right? We're going to give you CRM, we're going to give you marketing, we're going to give you payments handling, we'll give you HR for your own staff. And it's all on this business platform. And I was thinking, yeah, but there's something above that. If it all breaks down and your AI agents or agentic architectures are truly able to silo bust specific workflows, then we're in a different game, right? There's something else on the horizon if that's the case. And that was the thing that was kind of on my noggin. Was I was thinking, is this like a core belief that you have? Is like actually agentic architectures are going to destroy vertical industry workflows, and if that's the case, then it's about digital business platforms, and then it's kind of it's all to play for. Would that be fair?
What's that thing they say in court? Like,
I swear to tell the
no,
truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Mark
the
Zuckerberg.
Self-incrimination.
one, yes, the one where you say, yeah, that one. That's see, Alan, you're always yeah. That's the one that's the one I was after. No, yeah, like you're very spot on. So I fundamentally believe we're going to live in an autonomous world. So if you think about sort of like the bigger mission that I want to build is I believe Bird can be an autonomous company. That's actually what I'm after. So I already believe that, my daily job is basically executing different types of tasks. And my judgment is based on the research that I'm doing on the industry and all that sort of stuff, right? But these are all things that agents can already do. So the agentic network that we built is basically to enable that world. And in terms of verticalization, you're also very spot on. I think about the world as tasks. So humans have a X amount of tasks. Let's say an accounts payable person in finance has 100 tasks that they need to do in a week in order to complete their job. And right now, let's say AI can do 20 or 30 of those tasks, and 70% you need a human for. Over time, I think that that's going to move up into more and more agent-based tasks. And we think about the verticalization, we think more about the abstraction layer on top. So if you think about attributes and objects, at Bird, it doesn't really matter because we basically have a data catalog where you can create your own verticalization yourself. So whether you're managing a lead or an employee or a contract, these are all different definitions at Bird that you have, but you can actually create your own schema and your own ability to create your own vertical. So yes, we would believe less in, as much as everybody's saying it's going to go towards verticalization and everybody's going to start building their own apps. I don't really believe that, because if I compare it to like the App Store, you sort of have the same trend. And where like the App Store came out, and then everybody was building an app, and I remember like every gym had an app, and you were like, at one point you had so many apps on your phone, and you were like, fuck, what do I need with all these apps? So I don't really believe in that world. I believe much more in a business platform that you're able that just solves that problem for you. I also, if I went down to like a rabbit hole on the downside of what's going to happen in SaaS and broader technology, is that I'm actually very pessimistic on the world. If you look at two trends that are going on that I think not a lot of people are talking about, it's actually not just about AI. It's actually equally about robotics. So, and not a lot of people are combining both those industries together, but they should, because AI combined with robotics is actually a real threat to employment and through humanity. Because most economies are built not on large enterprise companies; most economies are built actually on small and medium-sized businesses, and most of the world is capitalist. So, as soon as like there's a cheaper way to do things. And if you actually look at like a company like Amazon that's deployed, I believe, over a million or 10 million robots, they have this data point where before they would measure the cost of robotics in their warehouses at about $13-14 an hour. So let's say equal to roughly employment of a human. In the past 9 months, that cost has dropped to about $4.50
Wow.
an hour. So if you now like sort of like compound this and like, so I think that these things are going to happen. So for Bird, we want to be an enabler of this world because we want to survive.
Yeah.
And in order to survive, I just don't believe that there is a lot left in SaaS because I love DocuSign. I use DocuSign a lot, right? But if you think about DocuSign, it's like what, a $15-20 billion company? It's a fucking app that you put a signature on that, like, what are we talking, like, wait, like, what technology is here? It was all go-to-market execution that was raised with a whole bunch of capital, and it did a tremendous job, and it's a good product, and, but like, I just think, and nothing in enterprise goes as
It's
fast
like a
as you
rotary
want.
phone.
Yes, but like, so it'll take a while before all these things happen. But I think if you think this through in 5 years, then I don't think there's a world anymore left for these apps.
Yeah. It becomes a feature within a broader platform.
Maybe I just a follow on there from like autonomous.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a whole area of autonomous finance. And I think if you follow down, like, for instance, where we are, Alan, and people like are trying to get a loan agreement, right? And then they're trying to get a repayment schedule that fits them and that they can meet, right? And then they find out, hold on a second, things have happened in my life and I'm not able to meet that schedule like I did before. I need to renegotiate that. And then I need a schedule that's kind of redesigned for my circumstances. The AI is like super good at figuring out what my circumstances are and really good at figuring out what my affordability is. And actually what it can do is give you a very hyper-personalized loan and a hyper-personalized repayment schedule. And then it's kind of optimizing for just making sure that you keep to your schedule and then build credit and then come out the other side of this better, right? And in that case, what you get is actually a collapsing in some of the business models. Because if you look at the loans business, some of it is about late payments. It's about late payment fines. Yeah. And so you kind of get held up and shot when you say things like, that's bad revenue. It's not good revenue. I know people are going, revenue's up. Yeah, but not your good revenue. Like, your bad revenue's up. And if you can design services like I want to get the best financing for whatever it is I want to do in the process that I'm in, like selling something or providing service for something or getting maintenance, which your platform would do, right? If it's across everything, then autonomous finance services on the back of that are going to be a huge opportunity because they'll be niched to every particular interaction. And I think that the hope I'd give you is, I think it will bring a lot more people in and give them a lot more services rather than just kind of get rid of a loans business or get rid of financing. It's just going to be a bigger type of business on different rules, and they'll make money a different way. But I think if you don't kind of fundamentally get that, like, you're just going to hold back all the time. Like, you're not going to look for ways to say that person ended up paying fines. That's a failure. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a failure on us. Like, how do we actually fix that? That's a bad outcome. How do we optimize for that? So I think that when we were looking at this, I was thinking, because I was thinking when you said a couple of words, my brain was going in the same direction, like autonomous. And so there's only this year kind of autonomous finance as a kind of a catchphrase. It's not really out there yet. But if you really think about like how AI is going to transform how we get financing, then the opportunities kind of really open up. All you have to do is be in the conversation, have the right data, and go, hey, by the way, there's other profits all around this. Like you don't have to just make, like there's a ton of businesses out there that make more money from financing than they do from the thing they're selling. So like there's a lot of ways that businesses can innovate around that, I think. So I wouldn't be completely like on the downside of everything that, like, you know, I think they said the internet's going to make everybody unemployed. But if you do work in retail, it has had a big impact. Like go through your high street, like it's fundamentally reshaped the way your high street looks, the real world.
Mhm.
If you look at your free now cab ride, like that's fundamentally changed the way the cab businesses work, right? So it is going to rewire businesses, like it is going to rewire things. But I think that I don't think it's, you know, it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's, you know, it's there to be shaped the way we want to shape it. If we just go through it with a kind of a pre-thought idea what we want as an outcome as well. That's a lot of talking. Is there a question at the end of that? Maybe my question might be.
I'm questioning. Do you get high on High Street? Like what's High Street?
Yeah, High Street is
in London.
Is in the UK, right? It's like your shopping areas in the middle of town, which is now coffee shops and vape shops, right?
Yes.
Maybe suntan shops.
I think Paul. I think my concern is more high-end economies. So I actually think what's interesting is that like you might have a fundamental switch in like what economies grow and which ones decline, because the lower end of the market, let's say like economies that have like lower wages, that is sort of like, you know, you're not as quickly going to change like you're the cleaning lady of a hotel or a cleaning person of a hotel. Sorry. I'll be more political, but like, or, you know, so that's not going to happen very quickly. But at the same time, in a more high-end economy, you could argue that a robot's going to do a much better job. Paul, I also agree with Paul that I do think like if you think, and by the way, it's something that frustrates me a lot about businesses, and it's just like, you know, the fact that a lot of companies make more on the, you know, let's say bad side of the business, like paying late, and then, you know, all of a sudden you pay 30% instead of 5% on something. I think that's a terrible business model to be in, and those people should all go to jail.
Yes.
Just because I think it's actually a really bad
They
business.
go to
And
jail,
it's like,
or the people that won't loan them the money at the first place. So who should go to jail? Should it be the people that aren't giving those people money because they're high risk, or should it be the people that is giving them money to feed their families at the end of the month?
I don't think you should loan people money that are high risk.
Yeah.
Like,
So should they
you know,
starve?
you should protect. No, but you should protect. You need to protect. Governments and businesses have a fiduciary duty to protect. The
I'm with
interests
you.
of
I
people.
see. We have
That's
big
why-
thing with payday loans here in the U.S. 30%,
Yes,
35%. It's criminal.
I would say to you, like the UK is doing a really good job of legislating in this area and building services and building data in this area. It's actually really, there's a deep thought gone into it, and I'll talk to you offline if you want to know what I think it's really about. But needless to say, it's a data game, right?
Exactly.
And just the point about like where things get kind of messy, right? Is these points, and the banks, etc., are having to judge where I don't give you a loan, right, for something, and that person then goes to a loan shark, right, and is taking out an illegal loan to do something like pay for the kids back to school or whatever it is, right? And because you've denied that loan, you've pushed that person into an illegal loans market, which is like a terrible place to be.
Yeah. What is mentioning is something that we've had on TED Summit for quite a few years. It's open banking, where it's helping people manage the financing because they get nickeled and dimed to death. Okay. So with open banking, you can share information so that they can be advised to make decisions that go for it, Paul.
And more importantly, right, if you actually share your banking data like that with somebody, and they give you a loan or give you services that you can't pay for, it's on them. You had
Yes.
full disclosure of your data, right? And that will fall back on the lender, not on the lendee, because you've had full disclosure.
Yeah.
And I think that the opportunity, open banking is still nascent. It just hasn't had its joy yet. And
Europe, where I'm like famously from, like is like the worst in the frigging world like this, right? Like everything that comes into Europe right now is like, how do we create a regulation for it? And all that's happening is like they're just becoming oblivious that people are going to leave them out. And the percentage of revenue of U.S. companies into Europe is actually not that large.
Mhm.
So where Europe is like really mistaken is that they think they can force all these U.S. companies to basically change their ways. But everybody knows that 70% of all money is made in the United States in the world. So in software and technology, at least in my space.
Yeah.
So like, at the end of the day, if Europe would get too much regulation, something like Facebook's just going to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
How about I just shut off all my services for Europe? How
Mhm.
about I do that? And Amazon might be like, how about I stop delivering inside Europe? Because you know what? I might take a 10, 20% hit, but all these fines and all these regulations and everything is also costing me a lot of money that is affecting me in different ways. So deregulation, I think, is super important, not just for the US where I know it's a hot topic, but just generally.
On that note, I'm not letting you off the hook on the Salesforce. So I mean, look, the GDP of Europe 15 years ago was equal to the US. It's now half of the US. So and then US was going backwards. So from a money standpoint, you're 100% right. And I think you were born in America. You just didn't know it because you're speaking like just a true capitalist. But back to Salesforce, because I can't let you off the hook on this. So you mentioned Salesforce. I have a good friend that, and Gene Liu, he used to be at Haywire. He sold his company to Salesforce many years ago. Do you know him, Robert?
I know
Gene
of
Liu?
him.
Yeah,
I
great
know of
guy.
him. Yeah.
Old friend of mine. He was the principal architect. He's the principal architect of mobile over there. So you're going right after Salesforce. So you got kind of cute with me on my post where I said, Twilio would buy you. They got enough money. You're disrupting Wall Street. 4 companies own all the stocks in the world anyhow. But now you're talking about Salesforce. CEO of Salesforce is completely off his rocker at the end of the day. At what point do you not think if you start disrupting them, they're not just going to come buy you or try to buy you? Or is that just something you're not interested in? You have a different vision because you start talking about robots, autonomous. You're going at a whole different level that we're just numb to. So
yeah, but I think
I'm
my
sorry
objective is different. My objective is different. My objective isn't to get bought by Salesforce or to merge with Twilio or to do any of these things. I mean, let's start off with just like my personal objective is like I love creating things. Like I love building things with a platform that's singular and not 50 different things. And is that we actually believe in user interface and application. So everything at Bird is an API. So like we run something crazy like 11 or 1200 different API endpoints, but like, which obviously sets us up for an autonomous world and for AI, blah, blah, blah. So like, but I believe in user interfaces because I think user interfaces make things simple. Jokingly, Salesforce doesn't make things simple. So, but I believe in the simplicity. I believe in building. I think build like John, just to go back, like I believe in like I believe in like building this, and I've been passionate about this because as I was growing Bird, I found it like I just had all these hundreds of tools that I just like. So, and I've kind of like regained my passion. Like I can talk telco with you all day and SS7 and global signaling and like MNC codes and all that sort of stuff. And I can now talk email too. And we can talk about like inbox placement and all that sort of stuff.
What you've done here
but I think my
is
passion
unprecedented.
is much more on the side of like, what wakes me up every morning is like, whoa, I actually think Bird has a shot in the ability to create a world where something that I saw myself, which was all these different apps, and create it into one singular app. I think that is like a very magical product. And to be really honest, I don't want to fail, but if I fail, I might fail business wise, but I won't fail personal wise because for me, I enjoy waking up every single day and building and creating these apps. I mean, it was amazing. I actually announced today we shot off to like news today. today, all my employees can't log into Jira anymore. So we already like moved off of it for a while, but but they had some hybrid version
Yeah.
between the, like, they were still, you know how people are, like, if the old thing still works, you still log in there. So literally today, an hour before this call, we killed it. Like, that is cool. Like, we loved it. We love doing that. And it creates a lot of frustration because I think like half the employees probably think they love it, and half of them think crazy and are like, "What the doing?" And like, you're creating my work. My workflow is now broken. But it does push us forward. And then, when customers go, we have these like really cool bots, for example, because we run tasks and Jira's ourselves. So we have these really cool bots. So we have like Slack groups with our customers, and they can do really cool things. Like, actually, our customers can create tasks for us to go do things. And that's how we do bug reporting. That's how we do feature requests.
Gotcha.
And then the AI actually prioritizes all of it. So, a customer might give it a P1, and the AI will actually decide if it's really a P1 or if it's actually a P3 or a nice to have, and it just goes into some closet. Like, I just think that those things are cool. This time is really cool. I mean, I was just too young to live through early 2000s, like 96 into 2000. So I missed that era, which, if you're in tech, you kind of wanted to live through that era. Whether you won or failed, it all doesn't matter, but you lived through it. You tried, sort of. And I think we live in a new world now where, like, you get to try to create and try to build. I think that's very cool. And whether Salesforce comes or doesn't come or hasn't come, I think all these things are kind of irrelevant. I'm not looking to sell the company. I don't have to. Like, this is not like, I honestly would not know what I would do the next day. I sold the company. I have a lot of money. What do I do now? That I have very supporting investors. Like, and maybe it does help if you have control, that like they kind of have to be supportive. But on the other side, I will tell you, I have not had extreme fights or birds that like never had a lawsuit. Like, it's just like we don't really have that. But I am very opinionated. Like, I don't do investor calls. They know that. They don't like that. They gave me a lot of money, give me $1 billion, right? And I don't do calls with them. They don't like that. But the reason I don't do calls is because it's distracting. It's significant because investors don't realize how distracting it is, because I have to prep. I need my finance team to prep. Like, these things take weeks. I wake up every day and I'm like super motivated to go sit behind my laptop because it's also really, really, really.
I mean, 40
cool.
is, you act like you're old. You're a kid. Wait till you get 50. You know the best part about being 41 and 42 is, Robert? You get so much smarter. So what you got to look forward to? Getting smarter every day. I look back at 30, I'm like, wow, was I a moron? 40, I'm like, man, I can't believe how much of a moron I was then. The best thing about being older, people are like, would you wish you were young? I'm like, no, because I was a moron. I'm happy now because I don't think I'm a moron anymore. So at the end of the day, you got a lot to look forward to. I just think it's the best feel-good day story of our 104 podcasts and what we do here and what we've tried to do. And you've been just an important part of what's right for innovators to follow. And we're rooting for you.